We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
You know, we've said it before, but that word holy and whole has so many different meanings, and it just hit me. You know, I was welcome. I'm so happy we're here, and thank you for being here. Our purpose. Feeling so amazingly blessed for whatever drew us into this moment, into this assembly. Our purpose. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The core value that was chosen for today's gathering is number 1. We trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is realization of one true self. We live this value by supporting one another on different paths of awakening. Okay, so I love this first song. I've known it probably my whole life. The reason it was chosen, more and more, you know, I made a commitment in one of these online retreats a number of years ago now. Linear Time and I, we don't get along anymore, to pick up the pen, right? And I've been picking up the pen every day. And when I go to Inner Wisdom and I say, you know, please help me, you know, the thinking mind, the sense of a separate self feels very, very strong in this moment for some version. Over the last couple of weeks, this song just starts playing in my head. And it reminds me that life is meant to be joy-filled, that it's not complicated, that we only think we left home, and that there really isn't anything more pressing than chasing the clouds from the sky. Sign up, if you would. Thank you,
so we come to the last.
Welcome home. This is the very first time I'm reading an invocation. When I read this yesterday, the Supreme Yoga, I started to cry and shake, and here's the thing, I have no idea. I'm as excited. Well, I don't know if excited is the word, but the structure's set, the intention is set. The words are not Cyndi's; they're the divine's. And this morning, I was listening briefly. I don't even know how it came to me, but I found a 3-minute David Hawkins video. And he said, there's tremendous power in invoking the divine will. And that is the prayer and my intention for this gathering and for everything that occurs in this gathering. So in invoking divine will, I share these words from the Supreme Yoga. Truth is truth. I salute that consciousness, which is the bestower of the fruits of all thoughts, the light that shines in all luminaries, the supreme gain. That consciousness pervades all the limbs, ever awake and alert, vibrates constantly in all substances, and is ever homogeneous and undisturbed, as if it were in deep sleep, though wide awake. That consciousness is the reality that bestows the individual characteristic on each and every substance in the universe. And though within all, and so nearest to all, is far on account of its inaccessibility to the mind and the senses, continuous and homogeneous in waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and in the fourth transcendental state of consciousness. It shines when all thoughts have ceased, when all excitements have ceased, and when all hate has ceased. That consciousness is devoid of desire and ego sense and cannot be divided into parts. I believe, though I never trust my memory anymore, that it was in the MPP True Discernment course that Regina gifted me with this vision of this work being similar to hitting a target with buckshot, creating all these holes that allows the light of truth to shine through. And that's my prayer for all of us right now, that in whatever way possible, as we say yes, holes in the sense of our separate self become larger and larger, that our beauty and the truth can shine through. The reading. So many voices are showing up, gifting, right? The reading comes from Adyshanti. And it actually, for me, provides so much of what is foundational to the awakening at home process and what is introduced in the retreat. A friend who told me that she was a stalker in our rooms for a long time, and then came out of the woodwork and hugged me a lot when we met in La Vida in the spring, and who will be part of the Awakening at Home retreat, I'm told, is she's agreed to read Adyshanti for us. Welcome, Jan. You can no longer ever be a stalker here. We all know your face.
Hello, everyone from Oregon and from Adyshanti. Section 1, clarify your aspiration. To clarify your aspiration means knowing exactly what it is that your spiritual life aspires to, not as a future goal, but in each moment. In other words, what do you value most in your life? Not in the sense of moral values, but in the sense of what is most important to you. Contemplate this question. Do not assume that you know what your highest aspiration is, or even what is most important to you. Dig deep within, contemplate, and meditate on what the spiritual quest is about for you. Don't let anyone else define your aspiration. Look within until you find, with complete clarity, what it is you aspire to. The importance of this first foundation cannot be overemphasized because life unfolds along the lines of what you value most. Very few people have truth or reality as deep values. They may think that they value truth, but their actions do not bear this out. Generally, most people have competing and conflicting values, which manifest as both internal and external conflict. So just because you think something is your deepest value does not mean that it actually is. By deeply contemplating and clarifying what you value and aspire to, you become more unified, clear, and certain of your direction. As your realization and spiritual maturity deepen, you will find that some aspects of your aspiration remain steadfast, while others evolve to reflect what is relevant to your current level of insight. By reflecting on and clarifying the issues relevant to your current level of understanding, you stay focused on the cutting edge of your own unfolding. Section 2, Unconditional Follow-Through. Making clear what you aspire to is the first step. It has the effect of gathering energy and attention together into a unified force and directing it toward your aspiration. Once you have clarified your aspiration, you now need to follow through. Following through has to do with what you are willing to do or let go of doing. Spirituality does not require that you work hard toward achieving a result in the future as much as it requires you to be fully present, sincere, and committed now, with absolute honesty and a willingness to uncover and let go of any illusion that comes between you and the realization of reality. Therefore, spirituality does not have to do with time or what can be achieved in time. It has to do only and always with the eternal present. Aspiration is not so much a matter of the mind as of the heart, in that it is a reflection of what you cherish, love, and value most. You do not need to be reminded of what you truly love, only of what you do not love. And what you actually love is most truly reflected in your actions, not in what you feel, think, or say. When aspiration lines up with unconditional follow-through and love, it becomes a very strong force in the universe. And only then are we unified and one-pointed enough for our aspiration to survive the winds of folly, fate, and circumstance. Section 3, Never abdicate your authority. Never abdicate your authority. This means that you take full responsibility for your life and never forfeit it over to someone else. There is no such thing as riding the coattails of an enlightened being to enlightenment itself. A failure to understand this can lead, as so many have been led, to cultish fanaticism, fundamentalism, magical thinking, disappointment, disillusionment, and/or spiritual infancy. While it is understandable that many people project their unresolved parental issues, relationship issues, authority issues, sexuality issues, as well as God issues onto their spiritual teacher, and are sometimes encouraged to do so by unscrupulous spiritual teachers, it is essential to understand that a spiritual teacher's role is to be a good and wise spiritual guide, as well as an embodiment of the truth that he or she points toward. While there may be deep respect, love, and even devotion to one's spiritual teacher, it is important not to abdicate all of your authority over to your teacher or project all divinity exclusively onto them. Your life belongs in your hands, not someone else's. Take responsibility for it. There is a fine line between being truly open to the guidance of a spiritual teacher and regressing into a childish relationship where you abdicate your adulthood and project all wisdom and divinity onto the teacher. Each person needs to find a mature balance, being truly and deeply open to their spiritual guide without abdicating all of their authority. The same can be applied to a spiritual teaching. A spiritual teaching is a finger pointing toward reality. It is not reality itself. To be in a true and mature relationship with a spiritual teaching requires you to apply it, not simply believe in it. Belief leads to various forms of fundamentalism and shuts down the curiosity and inquiry that are essential to open the way for awakening and what lies beyond awakening. A good spiritual teaching is something that you work with and apply. In doing so, it works on you, often in a hidden way, and helps reveal to you the truth and falseness that lies within you. What is it to not abdicate your own authority and yet not claim a false or self-centered authority that will lead you into delusion? I am afraid that I cannot tell you. You see, no one can tell you how not to deceive yourself. If, in the deepest place within you, you want and desire truth above all else, even though you go astray in 1,000 different ways, you will find yourself somehow, again and again, being brought back to what is true. And if you do not want and desire truth above all else, well, you already know what that leads to. Adyshanti's sense of humor. Number 3, practice absolute sincerity. To have genuine sincerity is absolutely necessary in the spiritual life. Sincerity encompasses the qualities of honesty, genuineness, and integrity. To be sincere does not mean to be perfect. In fact, the very effort to be perfect is itself insincere, because it is a way of avoiding seeing yourself as you are right now. To be able and willing to see yourself as you are, with all of your imperfections and illusions, requires genuine sincerity and courage. If we are constantly trying to hide from ourselves, we will never be able to awaken from our illusion of self. In order to be sincere, you must let go of being judgmental towards yourself. Being judgmental covers over your access to true sincerity, and at times even masquerades as sincerity. True sincerity reveals a powerful form of clarity and discernment that is necessary in order to perceive yourself honestly without flinching or being held captive by your conditioned mind's judgments and defensiveness. The capacity and willingness to be honest with yourself is your greatest guard against self-deception and deceit, and aligns you with your genuine aspiration. There is no greater challenge for a human being than to be completely honest with oneself, as well as with others. And yet, such honesty is absolutely necessary if we are ever to awaken from our dream of separation and live a truly genuine and undivided life.
So, if you have shown up today because you believe you'll hear something you haven't heard before, I'm sorry to disappoint. If you're looking for the next shiny bubble of inspiration, I don't know that you're going to find it here, out there, per se. The quieter I'm becoming, and something is definitely shifting in my experience these days, the more I recognize there is nothing new. These teachings, whether they're Adyshanti or the Supreme Yoga, Regina Dawn Akers, or Rupert Spira, David Hawkins, Michael Singer, they're all the same. And so there's nothing new. Adyshanti just said in this reading, do the work. It's pretty much what he said. Get quiet. Know and be very, very honest about what your goals are and show up, meet yourself. In a recent podcast pulled from Michael Singer's talks, Michael Singer stated, and I didn't write it down, I didn't know I was going to say it, but pretty close to a quote: if you ask me how to do this, I'm not going to be able to tell you. You know how. You just have to choose to. It's not what happens when we're on the cushion, right? It's what we do when we step away. Recently in my writings and in a diet, I believe, the thinking mind started to have a fit. It told me that my daily practice and all of this work was boring. It very, very, very adamantly said it was time for something new. Go do something new. When is life going to get exciting? Like it literally was, it was loud, right? Boring. It kept saying, this is boring. This is boring. Maybe you should go visit Dan in Mexico, or get on a plane and go to La Vida, or do something. It's time to do something, right? This is boring. Because of the skills that I learned here and that I've been practicing, what I did with that little ego storm was I went to the dictionary and I looked up the word boring. You know, the mind told me I knew what boring was. But you know, there's more than one definition. There's more than two definitions. But the definition that inner wisdom clearly guided me to was that you bore through rock. You bore through hole. You create holes. And right away, I was like, oh, this is buckshot. You know, the thinking mind's not liking it, because saying yes to the daily spiritual practice, saying yes to allowing life to hit my stuff, saying yes to the recognition that the thinking mind is not in control of anything, all that is boring holes in the sense of the separate self. So that got celebrating, right? Celebrating that the thinking mind is upset. Learn that here too, right? I asked the question in the second, deeping into clarifying the teachings, you know, what do I do with this intense resistance? And I now celebrate it whenever it shows up, right? When resistance shows up, it means that this thinking mind is feeling threatened. So instead of attempting to satisfy the thinking mind, the invitation is to greet the resistance with willingness. For me right now, willingness means to continue to commit to my daily practice, my quiet time. At the moment, it's NTI 500, it's daily diets, it's everything about Gentle Healing Year 3 and contemplating the 7 steps. It's showing up for early insights in the Tao. It's using the world to hit my stuff and letting it burn. Yeah. And letting go of thinking I know anything. So then, hopefully the next time you hear the thinking mind tell you that life is boring, that there has to be something more than this, perhaps you'll smile with me and recognize that when we sit still and allow life to be boring, even for a few minutes, we're boring a hole in the structure of our separate self. Okay, so at Awakening at Home, at the retreat, or even if you just go and listen to the 6-part mini series online, what I learned and what I've been living by and what works suits me, and Adyshanti teaches, is that what is most important is knowing what it is you want. What is your spiritual aspiration? Do you know? Do you know why you're here? What drives you to be here, to keep showing up in this room? And I don't know is a great answer to that. Truth realization is the ultimate answer to that. But more and more, I've discovered that I just am here because there's no place else to be. I learned through Awakening at Home and through Adyshanti and others that there are words that we can put to our spiritual aspiration. These words change, by the way, because truth always meets us where we are when we get quiet enough. I learned that here too, that all we're ever being asked to do is do the best we can in any given moment, right? And when we give our willingness and we set our intention and we slow down even just a little bit, then truth will guide us to our next step. And so when we get really quiet, or as quiet is quieter than we were, and we ask Holy Spirit, inner wisdom, truth, whatever it is you call it, what are the words that will help me in this desire for truth? Those words come. For a while, my spiritual aspiration was to be the empty shell. And then somehow for the longest time, and this spiritual aspiration is still working on me, is to trust the Tao more than I trust the Cyndi story. Right now, where I am, those are too many words. My spiritual aspiration is simply, it's not personal. And man, does that one, that one really hits, especially with all the different things that are going on in my life. And now I got Michael Singer in my head right now, reminded me, oh, you think that it rained on the day that you were supposed to have an outdoor picnic, and you think somehow that the weather has something to do with you. Well, the weather doesn't have anything to do with you. The traffic jam doesn't have anything to do with you. Life itself goes on quite well without the sense of the personal self. And I have discovered that it's not personal, even when my daughter doesn't call me back, or there's a bill that can't be paid, or I wake up and the body's not feeling well. Whatever the current Cyndi story du jour is, just holding this space, well, it's not personal, is very useful. And in Gentle Healing Year 3, a recent quote we worked on that came from Sir Nisargadatta Maharaj reads, as long as you think you are a person, you'll see persons everywhere. In truth, there's no such thing. What you call a person is merely a thread of memories and habits. In the moment of realization, the person ceases. Identity remains. But identity is not a person. It's inherent in reality itself. It's interesting, my conditioning created a tapestry, right, of a separate self. Threads that were interwoven of, alcoholic father and a mother who was too young to raise children, and this happened, all stuff that the thinking mind feeds to convince us that the world is personal. And what's happening through all of this work that is so freely given at Awakening Together is I'm discovering that a new tapestry is being woven with all of these teachings and beautiful voices. And so the spiritual aspiration, it's not personal. It contains Michael Singer's teachings. You know, I can hear him saying, you really think that the weather is about you? What a great place to practice, by the way. And I have Sir Nisargadatta Maharaj reminding me that there's no such thing. And it comes to that a lot, you know, when the world hits my stuff and man, they took my balcony away. Lots of people have heard that story. They took my balcony away. My balcony. It's not person. Who is it that needs a balcony to be okay? And it's continuing because they're actually starting to put up the balconies in order in the direction that they were taken down. So they sealed off my balcony in the spring, and then they knocked most of them down. And actually, a week from tomorrow, they're putting up the new balconies. Yay! Except they haven't figured out how to take mine down yet. So there's still a balcony that I can't reach. Isn't that an interesting visualization for this work? There's a piece of me that still comes to tears when I've said my life has been so simple that all I really needed was to sit on my rocking chair on my balcony and watch the hummingbirds feed on my hummingbird feeder. And then God so beautifully gifted me with sealing the door that didn't allow me to sit on this balcony. And then the story continues. And what I'm really getting over and over and over again, how that balcony is continuing to represent what remains of my belief that my happiness is out in the world, as opposed to it being my natural, my nature, my true self. I laugh even as I cry every time I desire to sit on that balcony. How cool is that? So ask yourself, why am I here? Ask inner wisdom, ask truth. What are the words that will most guide me into being with my true self? Regina, and maybe I got it wrong, but the way it landed and the way I teach it and share it is that of all the practices that we investigate and work with in Awakening at Home, this is the one that must come first. Meaning, no matter what else we're doing, holding in our consciousness our spiritual aspiration will guide us. First, second, last, the Alpha and the Omega. So that is spiritual aspiration. Unconditional follow-through. So you have your spiritual aspiration. It lights you up when you're on the meditation pillow or you're in one of these classes. All the teachings now reminds me that is really important. It creates a nice foundation. The work happens when I leave the pillow, right? The work happens when you leave the pillow. And only I can do it. Nobody else can do it. In the last couple of months, a lot of things have happened. In my experience, probably the most intense was my ex-husband, the father of my children, died suddenly on July 31st, right? And I've spoken about bits and pieces of it. So he's no longer in a body. And the universe, the blessings were crazy. But the first one was that the experience happens when my 2 young adult children and I were 6 hours away from the hospital. We were heading to my sister's beach house. And so I drove, I had already driven 4 hours and my daughter drove 2, and I took the keys and they're sitting in the back seat. And one of his friends or his niece was calling about every 40 minutes or something with updates. We were in the car for about 6.5 hours. And for 6.5 hours, I had an opportunity to drive, right? And watch the inner battle. Because right away, showing up in these rooms and doing the work every day, I literally began with even this, use everything to awaken. And then the thinking mind was like, how selfish, but how ridiculous is that? Like, there was an argument in the mind that I shouldn't take advantage of the death of my ex-husband, the father of my children, to awaken. But right away, saying yes to this work, Ramana Maharshi's voice is in my head. The greatest gift I can give to my children and to everyone I meet is my own self-realization. And so for 6.5 hours, I kept asking inner wisdom, and inner wisdom was laughing at me, going, all you can do right now is drive. And I'd watch the mind spin. And then I just sunk into, I will to step back, let him lead the way. And everything that's been occurring since then has been some version of that. Even this, that the world hit my stuff. We light up the stuff. And then I give my willingness to have it corrected. That's the work, yeah? At some point, you're here, right? You're in this room. I recognize all of these names, all of these beautiful faces. We've made our commitment. And Adyshanti says it here. David Hawkins says it all the time. I have a lot of voices. Now I have Liz Cronkite and Regina talking to each other in satsang, saying, I go into meditation and I feel something working on me. Do you all? I feel it all the time. This beautiful presence working on this sense of a separate self. We just slow down and let it happen. We can slow down the journey. We could turn around and sink into it and deepen into our commitment. Unconditional follow through. Never abdicate your authority. This is an interesting one because we're here at Awakening Together, right? And so Awakening Together is formed, for me anyway, on this premise that truth happens through each one of us individually, and we can hold space for each one of us. That being said, I find the thinking mind reaches out often to say, that person has something I don't have, or I got to help that person. It does that too. Or if only, and recognizing that every time the thinking mind is pointing to another, every time I hear in my space there is another, that's the thinking mind. That's another way of putting it. Whether it's a teacher or a nemesis, they're all the same. Even right now, there is on some level a sense of a Cyndi talking to you. Wonder, I've been playing this game. It's an awakening game for me. If you close your eyes or keep them open, it doesn't matter. All that's really happening is there's a transmission happening at the moment. It feels like a voice is speaking to you and you're receiving some information. I wonder, can you simply feel the vibration of the transmission hitting your sense of a separate self? Every once in a while, I play that game. It's wild. I'm absorbing the information. I'm staying very present to the conversation, but also very aware of how my friends, my daughter, my teacher, whatever it is, when they're speaking, my diet partner, they're speaking, and I can feel the vibration of the transmission hitting the sense of a separate self. What's very interesting is I'm feeling it now, even as Cyndi is supposedly speaking, right? There's a vibration, this sound that is turning into words that we're all understanding at some level is moving through this sense of a separate self. And as it does, I'm feeling a vibration in my toes. It's wild, right? Words are a funny thing. They're never the truth. By definition, if you believe the words, you're hanging in separation. Yeah, you must be. Words are a communication device from one to another. The transmission that sits underneath the words. It's just truth working on all of us. So there's not a lot to say in this group about abdicating your authority, or don't, please, because awakening together is all about that. Honesty. Honesty is the last of these traits that Adyshanti is inviting us into. I heard Regina teach, I don't, again, linear time, but she was talking about a new awareness. It's showing up in me now is how she seemed to allow for the recognition that there was a belief in her system of what success looks like. If you're on the path, you're not homeless on the streets. You know, you should hit your deadlines. Something like that. But I am recognizing that as long as the world's still hitting my stuff, as long as I still sit in this apartment and look at a balcony and feel a contraction, I recognize that the belief that there's something out there I need to be happy exists in me. So I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. I don't want to pretend that it doesn't. And at the same time, I had a conversation with Rana and Diane, who's not here recently. We've been taught that a key place to be is to accept what is, right? Accept this present moment. And until very recently, that meant for me to accept this body, mind, personality shortcomings, to accept the condition, to accept my bank account, to accept the ups and downs of how I feel. It was the beginning of NTI Romans, I think, when that shifted. And it's an invitation I have for all of us. Why not accept that we are an extension of that which created us? Why not accept that we are God's love? And from that foundational acceptance, allow the ups and downs. Just another way of looking at acceptance, yeah. It's time for this next song. Playing for Change I love playing for change. If I want to shift, all I have to do is pick any song that they've done. This one is John Denver's Take Me Home. How cool is that? And while Sina plays it, it's awful, awakening together as a church. And as you sink into your heart, you may be called to donate. There'll be a link in the chat. You can also use that little donate here to support AT barcode. Sina, Take Me Home. There is a third song, and maybe if we don't get to it now, we can play it during fellowship. So this is the time. We still have some minutes. If anybody would like to share anything at all about the homily, about anything, while the recording is still on. Alyssa's iPhone wishes to speak.
Good morning. And I can't use my video right now, but I'm just going to read some things that I wrote, Cyndi. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Thank you, everyone. And that was just incredible, playing for change. Oh my, just beautiful. I'm just going to read from some of my notes. My willingness to do the work. And these are, from your homily, Cyndi. Slow down and see the journey. Never abdicate your authority. And I think you read that. Was that Adyshanti? I'm not sure, but
it was.
Thought, yeah, good. Thought does this when, and thinking mind points to another. And then I had a lot of good understandings that my mind said a person, or awareness said a person has what I don't, or gets what I don't, or I might have what somebody else doesn't. And I see, in a new way, thank you very much for your homily, that whenever I see things like that, and as soon as you started talking about it, there was a tightness and a clenching where my shoulders came up to my neck and my neck kind of disappeared. And that tightness in the neck and shoulders is what I get whenever I see separation, whenever I think thoughts like that. And now I can see how they react in the body. And that was amazing. And I think what you said that really hit the spot for me seeing this was the vibration of this. You said how it hits me, and you said it hit you in your toes, but as soon as you said the vibration, I felt it in my neck, and this huge clench just came up, and it was like a big ew. And that's what the body does when it sees separation. And then eventually that goes down to my belly, and that becomes this just discomfort that we're not all one, and that's not natural. And so these are the first times these words have come out of this mouth. So I know there's a new understanding, and I so cannot thank you enough. How to see things as one is a question I asked, and the response was consciousness plays out. I am consciousness, except that I am played out. And why are we here? Because I'm willing to do the work. I take the vow of happiness, and whether it comes now or in a million years, but I'm taking it. And the willingness for allowing the work to do me. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. That was just, I feel it inside, chills. And Jan, I actually don't remember if I said thank you for the gorgeous reading. Thank you for being you, and thank you for your gorgeous reading. Hey, Pia.
Hi there. Thank you for this humbly, or whatever you call it. And I have another quote from Adyshanti. And he has said that My speaking is meant to shake you awake, not to tell you how to dream better. I think that's really great. And I think your speak was really in the sign of love. And today's lesson in the Course in Miracles is today belongs to love. Let me not fear. And on your speaking, there was a commercial from Netflix on my iPad here, and it said, "Love is in the air." So, love us, Cyndi. Thank you.
I love us, Pia. Oh, how phenomenal. You know, I leave, I don't leave. I just, thank you so much for being here. I'm so in love with all of us. So feeling so extraordinarily blessed and grateful. Sinking into just this recognition that this is the most glorious place to be here and now, and everything that we need to know the truth is available right here, right now, in us, at Awakening Together. So thank you. Ina, I hand it to you.
Been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.